The movie begins at the Afghanistan border, where the US military is waiting for a weapons designer named Tony. Tony arrives shortly and demonstrates a missile to the military, claiming it is extremely powerful and capable of destroying an entire country. He is here to finalize a deal with the military officers, which he hopes will make him incredibly wealthy. After the demonstration, Tony leaves, but soon his car is attacked. The military officers try to protect him, but they are killed by the attackers. Tony tries to escape, but an explosion from one of his company's bombs injures him. The scene shifts to the previous day when Tony was awarded Best Weapon Manufacturer. His company, originally founded by his father and his father's friend, was being honored, but Tony was absent. Instead, someone else accepted the award on his behalf because Tony was at a gambling club. The man who received the award for him finds Tony at the club and hands it over. Tony jokes that he has no room for it at home and gives it away. A reporter then approaches Tony, asking if he is happy about creating such dangerous weapons. Tony responds that he is, explaining that they need to produce weapons to protect themselves from their enemies. Afterwards, Tony spends some time with the people around him. He is informed that his seats are reserved on a flight to Afghanistan. Tony travels to Afghanistan on his private plane. The scene shifts back to the present. Tony regains consciousness and finds himself connected to a battery. Confused and shocked, he asks a man nearby, "What's happening to me?" The man explains that when the bomb exploded, tiny metal fragments entered Tony's body. These fragments were too small to remove, so they used an electromagnet to prevent them from reaching his heart. Tony realizes he has been kidnapped by a terrorist group. The leader of the group arrives and tells Tony, "I brought you here because I admired your missile. The US military controls our border, and I want you to build the same missile for us. If you do, I will let you go." Tony refuses, but the man beside him warns, "You have no choice. We're in a place where neither the military nor your friends can find you." The man standing next to Tony is revealed to be another weapons manufacturer who was also captured. Tony and the man start devising a plan to escape, though it seems nearly impossible. The man expresses his desire to return to his family, while Tony shares that he has no family, only a driver and an assistant. They decide to build a bulletproof suit, believing it will protect them if they are attacked while trying to escape. The man explains to Tony that the electromagnet in his body can be controlled with a battery, which he has attached. They need to find a high-power battery to make the suit they're planning. Meanwhile, the terrorist leader believes Tony and the man are building a missile for him, so he continues to supply them with materials, not knowing they're for the suit. As they work on the suit, the news reaches the leader. Enraged, he wounds the man helping Tony. Despite this, Tony completes the suit, integrates the electromagnet, and activates it. Wearing the suit, he fights off the terrorists and escapes the cave. Outside, he destroys their weapons and uses the suit's rocket launcher to fly away. He crash lands in a desert, where his team finds him and brings him home. Back home, Tony meets with his father's friend, who co-founded the arms industry. Tony announces he wants to go live and hold a press conference. Speaking to reporters, Tony reveals he was kidnapped by Afghans who demanded he build weapons for them. Realizing his weapons cause chaos and could start wars, Tony declares he is shutting down his industry and will no longer manufacture weapons. His father's friend steps in, telling everyone that Tony is not in his right mind, having just returned from a traumatic experience. He is distressed and speaking nonsense. This won't happen, as he says. Tony leaves, followed by his father's friend, who asks Tony what happened, how he escaped Afghanistan, and why he was abducted. Tony recounts the entire story and mentions he built an iron suit to escape. He asks if the friend wants to see it, and when he agrees, Tony removes his shirt to reveal part of the suit. The friend is amazed and suggests they should improve the suit and showcase it to the world, predicting they could become incredibly wealthy and successful. Disagreeing, Tony goes to his assistant and tells her he has built a more advanced arc reactor than the one currently in his chest and asks her to replace it. She asks what it does, and Tony explains that it prevents the metal fragments in his body from reaching his heart, while also generating more power. Meanwhile, the terrorist group finds fragments of the iron suit in the desert. As they piece them together, they begin to understand what it is. Tony, on the other hand, is working on a new iron suit with more powerful rocket launchers to help him fly. Tony tests his new suit and commands its electric generator to fly higher. However, the suit starts to freeze due to the cold at higher altitudes, causing system errors, and he begins to fall. He commands the suit to melt the ice, and after a moment, he manages to stabilize and take flight again. Upon returning home, Tony modifies the suit's mechanism to prevent it from freezing at high altitudes. His assistant has placed the old arc reactor on the table, with a note beside it. Tony gets excited upon seeing the note. In the evening, he attends a party where his assistant is also present. They enjoy themselves, dancing and celebrating together. The press reporter who questioned him earlier approaches Tony again. She informs him that Afghanistan is now producing many missiles like the one he displayed, and she doubts this is under his supervision or with his approval. Tony becomes furious, suspecting his father's friend and the industry's investor. He confronts the man, asking if he is responsible for sending the missiles to Afghanistan. The man admits, saying he had to do it. Tony angrily responds, "Do you realize that terrorists are killing countless people with those missiles? This is not our industry's mission." But the man dismisses Tony's concerns. Frustrated, Tony returns home and works on improving his suit, incorporating various advanced technologies, including mini rockets. Once the suit is ready, he flies to Afghanistan and confronts the terrorists and their leader. Using his suit's weaponry, he fires a mini rocket, causing massive destruction. The local Air Force detects the explosion but cannot identify Tony in his iron suit. Tony then contacts the friend who had accepted his award at the gambling club, telling him he caused the explosion and asking for help in handling the situation. When asked who is responsible for the attacks, the friend suggests that multiple enemies might be involved, keeping Tony out of suspicion. Tony's father's friend is stunned to hear that someone has managed to attack and vanish without a trace. He quickly travels to Afghanistan to speak with the terrorists, who reveal they know who is behind the attacks, but are waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. The terrorists reveal to Tony's father's friend that they have fragments of Iron Man's suit and can expose the suit's design if he pays them. However, the friend refuses to pay and instead retrieves the suit fragments, threatening the terrorists. Tony discovers that his old suit has been stolen. He tells his assistant, "I need to stop him at any cost. If this information gets out, he could cause widespread destruction using my name." Tony's assistant goes to the office of Tony's father's friend and hacks his computer, discovering that he was behind Tony's abduction. He didn't want Tony to have any share in the company. Shocked, she tries to leave, but is confronted by the friend. She manages to distract him with conversation and leaves, but he quickly realizes she has hacked his computer. As she exits, he asks, "Do you know Tony? Can you arrange an interview with him? I have some questions." Meanwhile, Tony's father's friend grows increasingly nervous, knowing Tony is powerful and now aware of his betrayal. He instructs some scientists to build an arc reactor similar to the one in Tony's body, but they are surprised by the unusually large size of the reactor he orders. However, the new arc reactor will take time to complete. Enraged, Tony's father's friend storms into Tony's house and forcibly removes the arc reactor from Tony's chest, effectively powering him off. Without the reactor, which acts as his heart, Tony begins to weaken rapidly. In desperation, Tony remembers the old arc reactor his assistant had given him. He quickly puts on his suit and installs the old arc reactor, stabilizing himself. Meanwhile, his father's friend uses the stolen arc reactor to power a massive suit he calls Ironmonger. With the Ironmonger suit activated, it displays immense power. The real Iron Man, now powered by the old arc reactor, confronts Ironmonger. They engage in a fierce battle, fighting their way onto the streets. Tony realizes that Ironmonger's suit, like his old one, will freeze at high altitudes. He flies higher, and Ironmonger follows. But soon, Ironmonger's suit begins to freeze and weakens, causing it to fall. As Ironmonger plummets back to the ground, his suit reactivates, and he resumes his attack on Iron Man. The battle continues, and they crash into the laboratory where the new arc reactor is being constructed. Tony quickly instructs his assistant to power up the new reactor, planning to use its energy to defeat Ironmonger. The assistant activates the reactor, which releases a powerful wave of energy that envelops Ironmonger, overwhelming and ultimately killing him. The next day, Tony holds a press conference where reporters shower him with questions, asking if he is Iron Man. A man advises Tony to claim that a security guard was involved in the fight and that his father's friend died naturally. However, as Tony steps up to the podium with the prepared statement, his friend whispers, "Just tell the truth." Tony faces the reporters and declares, "I am Iron Man." The revelation stuns the world, confirming Tony Stark as the real Iron Man. This concludes the first part of Iron Man.